Hi, fifth graders. Welcome to your next social studies story time. I have Puggles here with me again today. You can't see him, but he's sitting across from my computer, ready and eager for today's story, which is about the Battle of Bunker Hill. The battle, it's kind of hard to say, Battle of Bunker Hill. The Battle of Bunker Hill happens after the battles of Lexington and Concord. And I thought it would be helpful for some of you if I put the words up here again. Starting right here where it says Bunker Hill. And I'm going to highlight as I go so that you can follow along on your screen. On the night of June 16, 1775, a detail of American troops acting under orders from Artemas Ward moved out of their camp carrying picks, shovels, and guns. They entrenched, which means dug down, themselves on a rise located on Charleston Peninsula overlooking Boston, making huge mounds of earth. Their destination, Bunker Hill. Okay, so we just learned we have the Americans led by Artemas Ward. Their destination is Bunker Hill. From this hill, the rebels, so by rebels we mean the Americans, the people I was just talking about in the first paragraph. Sometimes they're called rebels because they want to rebel against Britain. From this hill, the rebels could bombard the town and British ships in Boston Harbor. The Americans were angry about the battles of Lexington and Concord and fearful the British would attack them again. So even though we know the battles of Lexington and Concord were a success for the Americans, they're still angry. Remember, the British had seized some of their weapons, we read in the other story, and they don't want the British to attack them, right? It'd be like if someone was coming to fight you. Even if you win the fight, you might still be angry it happened. But Ward's men misunderstood his orders. That means the Americans misunderstood the commands from General Ward. They went to Breed's Hill by mistake and entrenched themselves there, closer to the British position. Okay, so this would be similar to if someone gives you a location that they want you to go to or meet at. Maybe you go to the wrong spot on accident. I know I've had that before. If I'm trying to meet up with friends, maybe, and they tell me where to meet and I accidentally go to the wrong spot, that's what happened with the Americans. And the place that they end up, right, they were supposed to go to Bunker Hill. They end up at what's called Breed's Hill. And interestingly enough, they're actually closer to where the British are than where Bunker Hill actually was located. The next morning, the British were stunned to see Americans threatening them. In the 18th century, British military custom demanded that the British attack the Americans, even though the Americans were in a superior position militarily. The Americans had soldiers and cannon pointing down on the British. Oops. William Howe was the commander-in-chief of the British Army at the Battle of Bunker Hill. Major General William Howe, leading the British forces, could have easily surrounded the Americans with his ships at sea, but instead chose to march his troops uphill. Howe might have believed that the Americans would retreat in the face of a smashing head-on attack. He was wrong. So this is kind of foreshadowing, saying that he was wrong, because he thought the Americans would retreat. Let's figure out what happens. His Majesty's ships, so that would be the British ships, opened fire on the Americans. Early in the afternoon, 28 barges of British soldiers crossed the Charles River and stormed the hills. The Americans waited until the British were within 15 paces, so about 15 feet away, and then unleashed a bloody fusillade. Scores of British troops were killed or wounded. The rest retreated down the hill. Again, the British rushed the hill in a second wave, and again they retreated, suffering a great number of casualties. Casualties would be when a soldier is killed. By the time the third wave of British charged the hill, the Americans were running low on ammunition. That means their supplies for their weapons are running out. Hand-to-hand fighting ensued, which I think is interesting. Okay, this could be kind of like a fist fight, right? If you get in a hand-to-hand fight and you don't necessarily have your weapon that you can use anymore if it's low on ammo. The British eventually took the hill, but at a great cost. Of the 2,300 British soldiers who had gone through the ordeal, 1,054 were either killed or wounded. About 350 American soldiers died or were wounded. Okay, so really interesting and really important to point out here that the British took the hill. That means the British win control of the hill. And remember, this is actually Breed's Hill, not Bunker Hill. So the British win control of the hill, but at a great cost to them because they have almost half of their army at the time killed. So the Americans are able to kill more of the British soldiers, even though the British win control of the hill. You might be thinking, well, why did the British win control of the hill if more of their people died? Well, part of that is likely due to the Americans running out of ammo. You might have to retreat, right, if you're out of ammo. Let's read on a little bit further. So this first part was from ushistory.org. Now I'm going to read you one more paragraph that comes from don't need that. It comes from, if you look here at the bottom, it says, "Now we are enemies, the story of Bunker Hill." Don't fire until you see the white of their eyes. The origin of this alleged command to the American patriots at Bunker Hill on 17 June 1775 may have been Colonel William Prescott's order to reserve fire and aim low because powder was scarce. I think that's really interesting. They're running low on ammo, the Americans are. And so their colonel, so one of their leaders, says, don't fire until you see the white of their eyes. I think he's saying that because he wants each gunshot, right, to be precise, to really be accurate. If you don't have a lot of chances to fire, you want each time you fire to be really aimed well. Reputedly, Israel Putnam passed on the order in these words: "Men, you are all marksmen. Don't one of you fire until you see the white of their eyes." The British won the battle, but the Patriots' stubborn resistance at Bunker Hill became a symbol of American resolve. So what that means is the Americans might not have won control of the hill, but they won in the sense that they were stubborn. Mentally, they may have been stronger than the British because they really put up a good fight, and more British died than Americans. I want you to think about, who would you say were the real winners here? The ones who get control of the hill, of the land, or the ones who kill more of the opposing army's people and who might have been mentally tougher? Interesting to think about. I'm going to stop this video. Your job now is, 1, make sure you've also watched the video from Mrs. Borma that's posted on Social Studies Google Classroom. And then 2, head over to the response document on Google Classroom and answer what's posted there. Bye.